I have ridden 788 roller coasters around the world, and most of these are good. You know, typically roller coasters are built to provide joy and happiness to those who ride, but some of these designers must have woken up on the wrong side of the bed, maybe with a warm pillow and a lust for evil. That is why I believe we have the occasional roller coaster that causes much more displeasure than it does enjoyment. Okay, I'm kidding. All of these come from a place of good intention, but the execution just wasn't there. It has been more than 2 years since I ranked the 10 worst coasters I've ridden, and after riding so many more, I felt that it was time for an update. Especially because, for some reason, I rode a lot of really bad ones on my most recent trip to Europe. But with only 10 open slots, I needed to give some dishonorable mentions. First, we have Vekoma boomerangs. This model didn't make the list because most of them are actually decent at best. But every now and then you come across a really rough one, and that's among the worst coaster experiences you can have. Also, Corkscrew at Cedar Point, Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis, Giant Dipper at Belmont Park, Firebird at Six Flags America, Coast Rider at Knott's Berry Farm, Pirates Hideaway at Casino Pier, and Bandit at Movie Park Germany. Be sure to let me know of any coasters I missed in the comments, and without further ado, let's dive in. Number 10, Declair at Parc Asterix. This rare Zero Hornet coaster makes this list due to a particular situation we had. The ride operators for this ride thought it would be a good idea to squeeze National Coasters Night into this small car along with our 2 fat book bags, each carrying a week's worth of clothing. We thought the whole thing was hilarious, so we didn't think much of it, but when we made our way into the first mid-course break run, we were met with a serious dose of pain fueled by the congestion of us and our belongings. The rest of the ride outside of the break runs was janky, but wouldn't have warranted a spot on this list. For some reason though, Declair needed to have like 15 mid-course break runs, meaning the pain we experienced was accentuated time and time again. Number 9, Blue Streak at Conneaut Lake Park. With this next one, we're checking out a now defunct wooden roller coaster that I was fortunate or unfortunate to ride on its final year of operation in 2019. Really, there's 2 ways of looking at this one. The ride opened in 1938, so you've got to cut it some slack. It's got an old-timey layout and charisma as it flew through the woods, and that's something that actually has to be admired. But the way it jackhammered riders to oblivion could not be ignored. I've said for a while that Blue Streak was most likely the roughest coaster I'd ever ridden, and if it weren't for a few minor redeemable factors, it would have been much higher on this list. Number 8, Coaster Express at Parque Warner Madrid. This one I'd heard was awful because it was rough, but my experience was quite a bit different. Since the park had done some recent retrack work, Coaster Express was easily smoother than I expected. Not smooth, but smoother. For me, the problem lies almost entirely in the layout and the elements. This coaster is a waste of 4,500 feet of track because it literally does nothing for the entire duration of the ride. I kid you not, I don't recall any forces on any of these moments, and that's pathetic for a wooden coaster as enormous as this one. If Coaster Express were to be rough, and I mean jackhammery rough again in the future, I could genuinely see this one being at the number 1 spot. But hopefully we never find out, and Parque Warner does the world a favor by RMCing this poor old ride. Number 7, Tidal Twister at SeaWorld San Diego. This one I'm happy to report is one of the latest roller coasters out there to go under. Since my first rides on Tidal Twister in 2019, I knew this thing was not gonna last long. To be honest, it's not the roughest thing in the world. I think a lot of people were probably expecting worse. But like Coaster Express, it does nothing for the entirety of the ride except for some hang time that I think is blatantly unbearable. Skyline Attraction somehow came up with the bulkiest hard restraints possible for this ride, and when your entire body weight is being held up by that, it is so undesirable. It also takes forever to build up enough speed to clear the layout, which, by the way, is void of any airtime despite the fact that this hill is profiled in such a way that would convince anyone of at least a little bit of floater. I hold SeaWorld San Diego close with it being my home park, but I can honestly say Tidal Twister was a terrible addition, and I won't miss this ride even a little. Number 6, Anaconda at King's Dominion. This is by far the stupidest aero looping coaster I've ever been on. I know there are some that just drop into a pair of corkscrews, but those are so short that I can tolerate them. Anaconda is on the longer side and encompasses the 2 worst things about old aero loopers. The first half is rough and bangs your head around, and the second half is slow, meandery, and does absolutely nothing. The only good thing about this ride is that the drop going under the water looks cool. It's shallow as hell, so it doesn't do anything on ride, but it looks cool, I guess. Number 5, Tuler Rocky at Linen Maki. Mach Rides is one of the most innovative roller coaster manufacturers out there, having come up with some brilliant models and ideas. But I don't know what they were thinking with the design of the E-Motion coaster. Only 2 of these things were ever built, and there's a reason only 1 remains. Tuler Rocky would already be a dull, uninspired family coaster with normal vehicles, but what the E-Motion trains do is they bounce and rock in such a way that is unbelievably uncomfortable for riders. The good news is there's only a few instances of this during the ride, but come to think of that, it's also kind of pathetic considering that this is the model's whole selling point. The pain is brief, but when this coaster jackhammers, it does you in real good. I thought Linen Maki was a great park and I'd love to get back someday, but when I do return, I have every intention to skip Tuler Rocky without looking back. Number 4, Wildcat at Lake Compounce. One of the roughest wooden roller coasters I've ever ridden, Wildcat was always one of those rides that you had to do when you visited the park, but you never looked forward to it. It's got some of that historic charm, and it's one of the park's only coasters to begin with. In no way was Wildcat Wildcat a pleasant ride experience though. Having said that, I am happy to say that the ride will reopen in 2024 with Gravity Group's amazing pre-cut track, meaning it'll no longer be on this list in the near future. When it's back, I highly suspect that I'll be able to appreciate this ride's layout and its handful of airtime moments because it is there. But before 2023, the airtime wasn't distinguishable from jackhammering, so there was never any enjoyment to be had. This one is proof that more and more parks are stepping up and enhancing these once terrible rides. I'm actually looking forward to riding Wildcat when it reopens sometime next year. Number 3, certain Zamperla Valares. I've gotten to ride all 3 of these in North America, and 2 of them are hands down in my top 3. Those are Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland and Superflight at Rye Playland. The one that's exempt from this list is Soar and Eagle at Luna Park because there is nothing to hit your head against, contrary to the other 2. I literally cannot find one good thing to say about Time Warp and Superflight. These rides are torture devices, and it feels like you're stuck in a jail cell while you're riding. The transitions shake you around as if you were a rock in a blender, and it occurs so many times on these rides. There's no break from the pain, it just keeps coming at you, and it sucks. And I can't believe I have to put 2 rides higher, but here we go. At the number 2 spot are select Vekoma SLCs. This one should have been a no-brainer from the start. It has long been known that Vekoma SLCs are one of the worst roller coaster models ever devised. The only reason they caught on was because they were cheap, at least in comparison to the counterpart by B&M. So when a park couldn't afford one of their rides, they opted for one of these and didn't think much of it. The problem with SLCs do not reside in their layouts, as they're actually quite intense and would be exciting if smooth. Just look at Great Nor'easter at Morey's Piers. That one was entirely retracked and is a genuinely good ride. But almost all of the others have not had that fate and smash riders to a pulp on every single one of the SLC's transitions. Some of the worst ones I'd like to call out are Kong at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, Limit at Haida Park, Condor at Wallaby Holland, Flight Deck at Canada's Wonderland, Mind Eraser at Six Flags America, and Thunderhawk at Michigan's Adventure. At the number 1 spot is Guderick's at Park Asterix. It's all in the POV video. If you haven't seen it before, you need to stop what you're doing and give it a watch. The full thing can be found in my Park Asterix vlog or on my POV channel, Front Seat POVs. I feel bad because Park Asterix is one of my favorite parks in the world, but they had some terrible judgment when they built 2 of their older roller coasters. Fortunately, they got a lot better, and this would be the kind of park to implement some sort of improvement if there was one available at a reasonable cost. But I'll tell you what, there's probably nothing you can do but a full retracking that would keep Guderick's out of my number 1 spot. Not even those vest restraints I think could help it that much. I hope we see the day when this ride is bulldozed to the ground, and when that happens, there will be a party at my place and all of you are invited. A bunch of coaster enthusiasts in one place, what could go wrong? Actually, maybe we resort to some random park in Indiana instead. They'll have room for us. Oh wait, what's that? They want to shrink attendance? Honestly, I don't blame them. Sorry guys, party's off. But seriously though, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate your support very much. If you like what I do around here, feel free to give this video a like and subscribe to Coaster Dash so you don't miss any future content. And until next time, I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.